Hello, my name is Rebecca Thrash, and in this book talk, I'm going to be discussing The New Meaning of Educational Change by Michael Fullan. I recently read the 5th edition of this text, published in 2016, which follows editions first published in 1982. Because of the lengthy history presented in this book, there is a wealth of knowledge of trends and research in education offered by Michael Fullan. This drives the main focus of discussion in the book, which is how individuals derive meaning from educational change and how that can create more meaning for others involved in change. According to Fullan, this reciprocal relationship of meaning-making provides the best plan for sustaining real educational change. My goal for this book talk is to better understand why big initiatives in education might fail or what might make them successful, and to connect these ideas to teacher leadership. Because teacher leaders need to be master collaborators with colleagues, students, administrators, parents, and the community, this information can help define what role teacher leaders can take to make educational change successful and how they can better work with all of those stakeholders. What is the structure of this text? The New Meaning of Educational Change has 3 parts. The first part aims to fully explain what educational change really is. This includes discussing the historical context of educational change, insights into the process of change, and why planning, implementation, and continuation of educational change sometimes fails. In the next 2 sections, Fullan discusses on how each stakeholder in education is affected by change and defines their larger role within change. At each of these levels, I believe Fullan incorporates 3 main themes that can be directly applied to the concept of teacher leadership: shared meaning, capacity building, and the wrong drivers. I will discuss each of these themes next. The first main theme is shared meaning. For any change to be successful, all involved, and especially teachers, must have a personal stake in the change. This is their intrinsic meaning. And as more of that meaning develops, individuals are more motivated and committed to the change. Research discussed in the book often shows that institutions that have a large amount of shared meaning among teachers are more successful in getting more teachers to incorporate new ideas into their classrooms. Real educational change relies on deep implementation, which can only occur when groups generate shared meaning. If all involved are not on the same page, teachers are likely to misunderstand the purpose of an initiative and will then only enact change on a superficial level. This results in a lack of deep implementation. As Fullan states on page 239, the social, intellectual, and professional isolation of teachers begins in teacher education. It's no wonder, then, that individuals in education do not automatically engage in collaborative relationships that could foster the development of shared meaning. Furthermore, Fullan quotes Elmore on page 121 when discussing this lack of collaborative learning. Elmore states that there is almost no opportunity for teachers to engage in continuous and sustained learning about their practice in the setting in which they actually work, observing and being observed by their colleagues in their own classroom and classrooms of other teachers in other schools confronting similar problems. Fullan suggests that a key aspect to ensuring shared meaning is shifting the focal point of change from that of restructuring an organization to reculturing. Also, those wishing to enact change must acknowledge that teachers live in a perpetual state of uncertainty about their performance in general. Strategies that increase teacher trust in the institution can increase their engagement with the change process. Much like an iceberg, teacher actions are just the observable part of school culture that is generated by an entire belief system which underpins those actions. Reculturing can change that part that is often unseen, feelings and beliefs about the system and his or her role in the change of that system. Furthermore, shared meaning is a likely result of more collaborations. On page 229, Fullan discusses how collaborative cultures can develop the professional capital of teachers. This professional capital can incorporate shared understanding of pedagogical practices and the purpose of educational change, a key to deep implementation. The second main theme of the new meaning of educational change is capacity building with a specific focus on action. Bullen argues throughout the book that many policies and plans for educational change overly relies on a specific action that are fairly prescriptive. Therein lies the cause of failure. Instead, Bullen believes that capacity building is a better strategy for enacting change because it allows individuals to work within the context of their school culture. One way to focus on capacity building is to encourage the activity of professional learning communities, or PLCs. On page 116, Bullen describes strong PLCs as having reflective dialogue, deprivatization of practice, collective focus on student learning, collaboration, and shared norms and values. When teachers are in strong PLCs, the activities and beliefs of the group can be leveraged to change the practices of others in the group. The third main theme I believe applies directly to teacher leadership is understanding what the wrong drivers are in educational change. What exactly is a wrong driver? Bullen defines these policies, plans, and ideas as those that are supposed to produce educational change, but instead drive the beliefs and actions of individuals in education towards shallow or superficial indicators of change. One infamous example often cited in the book is a focus on student high-stakes testing as a way to ensure reform. According to research discussed by Bullen, state reform strategies that do not include efforts to improve the nature and quality of work in the classroom are not successful in increasing student achievement. And again, this is especially the case when the reform efforts rely on student testing rather than investments in actual effective pedagogy. Figure 3.1 on page 42 summarizes the differences between right and wrong drivers. Bullen extensively discusses the detrimental impacts to capacity building and deep change from wrong drivers. Often from a place of good intentions, policymakers try to enact change through punitive accountability, as seen with No Child Left Behind, individual focuses like getting the best teachers and principals, technology as a solution in and of itself, and ad hoc policies that are unable to be generalized to a variety of contexts. This section of the book reminded me specifically of an example that I encountered at the first school where I taught. In an attempt to make technology more accessible to students, the district had spent thousands of dollars installing a new computer lab in our school, but with no budget or plan for providing additional IT services or supervision for the lab. Within months, many of the keyboards were broken and the computers became inoperable. Teachers stopped using the computer lab, so the purpose of the investment went unfulfilled. I wondered then and now what better ways that money could have been invested. Now that I have discussed the themes of shared meaning, capacity building, and wrong drivers, I want to talk about how I believe these ideas apply to teacher leaders in three areas: in the classroom, in the school and school community, and in educational change in general. For teacher leaders in the classroom, one application from this book is how to become a lead learner. Although Bullen specifically discusses this in context of administrators and district leaders, I believe this presents an opportunity for teacher leaders to become lead learners for their peers and for students. When you are a lead learner, you can model how to approach educational change. Many students could benefit from seeing a teacher demonstrate how they come to terms with the anxiety and ambivalence that often accompanies new initiatives, because that might be similar to how students feel when confronted with change in their own lives. Furthermore, teacher leaders can engage in creating shared meaning with students through utilizing pedagogy that is relevant and engaging to students, as well as allowing students to participate in self-directed projects. Teacher leaders have many opportunities to impact their schools and communities when they take part in capacity building within their schools. One thing that can be done in this respect is to strive to understand the reality of other people that are involved in the same change. According to Bullen, this is essential to constructing shared meaning. When teacher leaders engage in developing other leaders, either among their peers or among their students, they are ensuring that educational change is successful and sustainable. This is especially important given that most new teachers are woefully unprepared for the demands of classrooms today. Bullen discusses the power school leaders have to legitimize or delegitimize educational change initiatives in their schools. This is also the case for teacher leaders. Taking change seriously communicates to other teachers that there is worth in change and may motivate others to become more involved. As mentioned earlier, this is part of how the group can change the group. Lastly, teacher leaders can engage with the community and become the bridge for involving more parents in their schools. This provides schools with more resources and assets for all students. When teacher leaders know the essentials of educational change, they can better refine their understanding of their position within that change. Teacher leaders represent the potential for educational change initiatives to be implemented at the ground level. Poland describes the conundrum often faced by local, state, and federal governments. It's difficult to change the practice of a large number of practitioners when there is little direct control or proximity to them. Herein lies the chance for teacher leaders to fill this gap in proximity. Lastly, teacher leaders can play their part in educational change by adopting a developmental or growth mindset. Unlike external accountability measures, like teacher evaluations, this mindset will generate internal accountability and promote more deep change. In conclusion, I believe that this book achieves the goals of laying out the fundamental of educational change and how meaning creation among all stakeholders can result in true and lasting change. Although most of the examples that were presented are those where entities in education have failed to truly reach sustained change, there seems to be a general trend of movement towards better systems of change. Change is a very difficult and complex process involving huge inputs from various sources and is influenced by many stakeholders. By understanding what change involves, how change is achieved, and how to influence the change, outcomes that are desirable are more probable. Thank you for listening.